Hey folks, Dave Ashenbrenner. Welcome back to the shop. This is a continuation on the Ducati tank that we did a video on earlier. If you missed that one, I'd suggest watching that first Ducati Monster. And we're going to put the fuel cap in. I've spent a few days going around and just with the different dollies, hand planishing this out until it's perfectly smooth, or as close as I can get it. This is the cap that we put in these, and it's a little different than a lot of ways a lot of people put them in, but I kind of came up with this idea. If you look, I've machined out the inner well for this, and it aligns with all the screws in the cap. It has a drain that goes through one of the ports, and the vent, which is right here, it vents through the top of the cap down through here, and it goes out the back of the tank and hooks up to the whole fuel delivery system. And what I did here was I took a aluminum ring, actually aluminum pipe, and I cut it to fit this. And what I did was I took this little, think of this as a valve on an exhaust valve or an intake valve on a four-stroke engine, and think of this as the valve seat right here. I cut these at the same angle, maybe 1 degree interference angle on this, and these fit together. And the idea of this is this fits in here like so. Real tight fit, real close tolerance fit. And then we align this. I have a tool that aligns this before we bolt this together. I leave that tool in there and then tape the tool to the top of the tank so it stays in the right spot. I should say before we do that, we put aerospace. It's a 3M product, aerospace sealant. It's a 2-part, and it remains flexible. Aerospace sealant. And this little container here was pretty expensive, but it's something necessary to do something like this, so we employed this in that. And once we get the ring slathered up with that on this side, we go back on the inside and we slather it around the inside of that opening where the outer ring is going to seat up against the bottom of the tank. Like so. And then we have 8 5mm bolts that bolt these together, and as we tighten it up, it forms a bend. It rolls a bend around the opening where these two join, and it traps the aluminum in between them like a gasket, basically. And whatever, wherever it isn't touching or isn't making good contact or whatever, the sealant kind of makes up for that. So this is the way we've been doing them for years, and it really works out well. You don't weld the top of the gas tank to this ring. You could, but you'll get a lot of warpage, and you have to do a lot of post-processing on it. So this is how I do it. And of course, these are the fittings. These are the fittings that go to the back of the tank for the vent and the drain lines. So that is how we do that. And I promised you I'd show you the bottom one here. This is that bottom piece we made up. Fits around the air box. And this was all welded up from pieces. And we welded it for the best results. We weld it from the inside of the tank, I should say, which is the outside, the way we're looking at it here. And then it fits into the tank. like so. This still needs to be trimmed around the back. But just to give you an idea. Yes, they are that hard to fit together. And then we have some strips that go into here. This is going to lay down. These are sticking up to hold it into place while it's in, before it's welded here. And then we have what I call the front. I call it a butterfly or a nose piece. And I'm going to show you that real quick. This is sort of a mock-up I made with the 3D printer just to give you an idea of how we do this. And this piece fits in here like this, similar to this. I'll match this one side up here so you get an idea of how this fits in here. Of course, it has to go down further. And you'll see this part of it. It's welded to here. After this aluminum piece is trimmed and everything fits in there real well. And here's our two little gapper spots here that fit into here once this is all shaped, and everything is, this needs to be trimmed yet. Everything needs a little tightening up on this. And those serve that. And I'm going to show you something else. This is kind of neat. This will be the first time we try this. The reason I made this little mock-up like this and fit it to the tank and printed it with the 3D printer is don't let anybody tell you there's not a lot of work that goes into making one of these things. I 3D printed a press mold for this. I do this on a number of different parts of my tanks. I'll print a press mold for it, and I use different methods when I press them together. Some of them I'll use like a 1/2-inch bolt, and I'll screw the two pieces together, and it draws them into each other and squeezes the metal into the part. So this is the approximate shape of what the metal part that goes in here. What I'll do first is I'll hammer this into here, and I'll get it centered. I give it kind of a head start, and this has to bend two different ways. Let's try it like this. This has to bend along the front in this direction, like so. And these have to make compound curves, compound bends as this comes down. So there's a tough little spot in here where that metal has to really get worked here. And when this comes down in here, we've got a little leftover material here on purpose. And this presses the part together, like so. And that's our basic shape. Now, as I hammer and hand shape this into here, we're going to alleviate any wrinkles in here. These are formed when you take a flat sheet and you try to press two together. Even a aluminum press, you have to do it in more than one stage. You do it in several different stages, or at least 2 or 3 stages on here. My first stage is to actually hammer it in using wooden and 3D printed hand forms that I'll use for this. So we'll get this started in this direction so that it's basically starting out being formed. We'll shrink it where it needs to be shrunk in here before I even attempt to press this together. So this isn't as easy as it looks. This is going to be kind of a long drawn out affair here to make this piece, but that's sort of how we plan on doing it. This is the first time we tried this on this tank, but I've got quite a bit of experience making these press forms like this, so I don't see any problems with that. So that's there's the aluminum piece. We're getting ready to anneal this, and we use a special little trick that I found a while back. A lot of guys will heat it up. They'll put soot with an acetylene torch on it, and that's messy. It gets the shop all dirty and sooty, and you blow your nose and you blow up black boogers. This is a really nice way of doing it. You use a Sharpie pen. Red goes away at about 700 degrees and the black goes away at about 900 degrees. So the red is just so you can make sure that you're evenly heating it all the way around with your torch. And then as the red disappears, then you know the black starts to go, and it gives you an indication of exactly what temperature you're looking at, so you don't burn the metal. So that's our little lesson today. Thought I'd bring you up to speed on the Ducati tank. Thanks for stopping in again. We will come back with, we've got a couple other tanks that are ready to go out, and before they go out I wanted to make sure I did a little show and tell on them. So you'll probably see those next before you see the bottom on this thing. So anyway, thanks for stopping in. We'll see you next time. Dave Aschenbrenner. Thank you.